All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Australia Aviation podcast. Once more, I'm not Adam Thorne. I am Jake Nelson. We have one more story, and it is part of a sort of a longer-running saga. The saga, once again, Chris, of the Sky Kittens.
I love our Sky Kittens.
We love Sky Kittens here, but they do not love Sky Kittens or their purring in Brisbane. There was a Greens bill put forward this week to essentially introduce caps and curfews on airline traffic at Brisbane Airport, sort of in line with the sort of thing they have at Sydney. Now, that was knocked back. It was knocked back by the government. Essentially, the government said they would not support it, and this has been an ongoing flashpoint at Brisbane Airport. So much, ink has been spilled and so many words have been said about this whole saga of, should there be caps and curfews? Should there be airlines flying so late over Brisbane Airport? Do they need a curfew? How can we mitigate the noise without putting in a curfew, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But this bill, Elizabeth Watson-Brown, the transport spokesperson for the Greens, said, quote, "The Greens put forward a simple common sense bill that would have legislated three things: a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., a cap on total flights per hour, and a long-term plan for more flights over the water. But despite these being similar regulations fought for both by Anthony Albanese and Kevin Rudd in the past, Labor has failed to support them today." Now, Brisbane Airport Corporation has also come out and released this economic modelling by economist Nick Berens, saying that caps and curfews would cost 16,414 jobs in regional Queensland, cut regional economic activity by $1.5 billion, and reduce regional Queensland flights by 3,100, translating to 239,000 fewer passengers in the 2026 financial year. Obviously they would say that, yep. But it does raise an interesting point about this connectivity between Brisbane and the regions, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And I guess what we have to remember is we live at the bottom end of the world. So in order to connect somewhere, in order to connect to Europe, the flight times need to be the flight times so we can still land at a respectable time somewhere at the other end of the world. Airlines put a lot of time and effort into, they don't just wake up one morning and go, "Oh, I feel like I'll operate a Brisbane-Dubai sector at 1 a.m. in the morning because why not?"
Maybe they should add a little spontaneity to the situation, spice things up.
But there's a reason that time is chosen, and it's rest period for the crew. It's so the aircraft can be at a particular point to carry on a network, to offer connectivity to passengers to the greater network. It's a big working beast, and look, like I've said before, they just need to get over it up there in Brisbane. It is what it is. A handful of airlines have successfully now trialled flights out over Moreton Bay, and it's worked well, reducing the Sky Kitten purring. And in order to move on and build a better Australia and bring more tourists into Australia, we need the planes flying.
Well, there was a breakthrough as well, a week or so before this bill was introduced, where Singapore, Emirates and Cathay Pacific basically agreed to increase the tailwind speed that they were willing to fly at Brisbane. So they said normally CASA rules limit airlines to flying at 5-knot tailwinds, but airlines and pilots can opt in to accept higher tailwinds at that discretion. So Singapore, Emirates and Cathay all agreed to fly in up to 7-knot tailwinds in order to alleviate the purring for locals, yep. which I think is a good step.
Absolutely. It's community, it's cooperate. It's sector working with community to come up with a solution. So well done to those airlines involved.
And this will allow them to fly more flights over Moreton Bay instead of over populated areas. So that's basically the victory that has sort of been achieved there. Yep. Moving forward. It's important to sort of balance, the needs of people who live beneath flight paths with the needs of, with the needs of passengers, with the needs of, the economy, with the needs of There's a lot of different stakeholders.
Yeah. And look, I remember when the second or the third runway at Sydney was being built, there was a massive no aircraft noise party trying to get the third runway blocked. And as part of the solution, all people living under the affected flight path would have their homes, windows and doors double glazed to alleviate noise and reduce it to a suitable decibel. And I'm sure the same would have been offered in Queensland as well. I think this is just a bunch of yuppies on their soapbox who need to step down now.
Well, I actually, in Marrickville, speaking of Sydney, I was driving through Marrickville the other day and I saw just passing overhead. I swear if I spat up out my car window, I could have hit it, but just a giant Qatar A380 just flying, it seemed
Isn't it magical?
Yeah, it seemed like meters over my head. I'm not a religious man, Chris, but I was making my peace with whatever gods were listening at that moment.
It's such a magical view, and they're so close you could touch them.
Could, but probably shouldn't.
Exactly right.